Now, you've said previously that the Conservative Party needs to dramatically change. So what do you want to see in the budget?
Well, I think this is the most important budget in a decade. The Conservative Party has just spent the last 10 years sorting out the economic mess that the last Labour government left us.
According to the Conservative Party.
But we can't just be defined as a party that comes in and cleans up after the last Labour government. What we need to do in this coming budget is set out what our vision for the country is, and it should be one around opportunity, social mobility, and we need to be talking to a brand new generation of people in our country who maybe are 20 or 30 and all they've seen us do is try and get the economy back in the shape. All they've heard from us is around how we have had spending constraints. What we now need to do is tell them what we're actually about, which is about giving them more opportunity so that they can reach their potential, and in doing so, help this country to reach its own potential. I
want to just ask you about something you said at a Fringe event at Conservative Party conference. I think we can have a quick look at what you were quoted as saying. This is about the Treasury. You said it doesn't have a framework for valuing investment in people, whether it's health or education or early intervention. That's not seen or accounted for as an investment. Instead, it's always been seen by the Treasury as a cost. What did you mean?
What I mean is that, as it sounds like, we'll hear more roads investment tomorrow, and of course that's welcome. But in the end, what's going to determine Britain's success, whatever happens on Brexit, is going to be people, and it's the people who get in those cars, it's the people logging on through improved broadband and their skills that will make the difference. And what I was saying was that Treasury does not value investment in people properly. And because of that, I don't think we get the right decisions out of that department. And it now needs to fundamentally reform to make sure that in a knowledge-based economy, which is the 21st century we're in, we actually get sensible decisions taken by Treasury and sensible investment in people. And dare I say, you had a discussion with Francis O'Grady about Amazon. If we can better understand how we value investment in people, we can also understand how we should deal with companies in terms of how they invest and deal with people. And that could then not just feed through into spend, it could feed through into the tax system. That's the kind of reform I'm talking about. And it goes alongside saying, what do we need to do, both in terms of investment, but more fundamentally, how do we need to reform government to make sure that we unlock the potential of people around our country? This is a long-term structural problem that Britain has never tackled, and we now absolutely have to get to grips with it.
I also pushed the Chancellor on universal credit. I know it's something that a lot of Conservative MPs are worried about, people effectively, some people losing out as a result of those reforms. Are you worried about it? And could you support, in vote, the current universal credit policy unless there's reform?
I am worried about it, and I'm one of those MPs saying to the Chancellor that I think it does need to be changed to make sure that it can work on the ground. And this is a good example of the Treasury reform that we need.
So would you vote for universal credit if it isn't changed?
Well, I think it's going to be hard for many of us who are concerned about how this will play out in our local communities to support it without the changes that it needs to be successful. And as I was about to say, this is a good example of the Treasury reform I'm talking about. 5 years ago, decisions were taken in terms of resourcing for universal credit that we are now seeing playing out. And as a result, it's very likely that the Chancellor will have to put additional money in. Now, that isn't a sensible approach. We need a Treasury that can get things right first time, whether it's universal credit, whether it's schools funding, whether it's NHS funding, that has a clear strategy that goes alongside that. So you've just heard from John McDonnell, and it's the usual Labour message: more spending. No strategy, just more spending. We have to get out of this cycle of spending splurges followed by spending constraints. It's not serving our country well, and we need to work out how we can make sure we have some proper long-term strategy for delivering more opportunity for more young people in our country, helping them get on in their lives, and in helping them be successful. That's how we make sure that Britain's successful.
You just mentioned John McDonnell. If the Conservative Party doesn't change, as you clearly want it to, do you think that Labour might win the next election? Well,
this is generally what happens. We come in, we take some difficult decisions as a responsible party in cleaning up the latest economic mess left by Labour. If we can't set out a compelling vision for a country with equality of opportunity, and let's face it, it's 31 years now since the Conservative Party last won a landslide election, then we'll do what we always do. We'll just end up handing the keys back to Labour. And that's the cycle that we have to break.
So you're on course to do that, do you think, at the minute?
I think we have to now get beyond fixing, if you like, the nation's finances to talking to a brand new generation of young people growing up in our country about what we in government have to offer them in terms of tackling the day-to-day issues and lack of opportunity that they see in their lives. There's one simple thing that the Chancellor could do on Monday, tomorrow. He could choose to allow young people paying rent have that flow through into their credit score, which will make it cheaper for them to get credit. We all rely on make it cheaper for them and easier for them to get a mortgage. That's a simple measure that the Treasury could announce tomorrow that won't cost a penny. Those are the kinds of smaller things that can have a big impact, but we need a much longer-term strategy from Treasury and from government to now show the public what we're all about, and that should be opportunity for all and equality of opportunity, and particularly targeting those communities that have been left behind in our country.
Is Theresa May the right leader to come up with that strategy?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily about a change of leader. What I'm saying is
they're the ones who make the decisions, though, aren't they?
What I'm saying is the Conservative Party is nothing if it's not the party of opportunity. Monday is a chance for us to set out what we really mean by that, and that's what I want to see in the budget.